And now, back to the Dr. A Show with your host, Dr. Will Aguila.
Our next guest says that walking is the orphan child of exercise. Walking does not have the giggling with your girlfriend appeal of Zumba, or the grunting of weightlifting, or the cool look of cycling. But it is a great form of exercise, and it is a vital component of good health, as well as a powerful tool for weight loss. Learning to use walking as a form of exercise correctly and making it fun is why Lesli Bonci is here today. Lesli Bonci is Director of Sports Nutrition at the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center, and she counsels clients ranging from individuals struggling with weight loss to scholarship athletes at Pitt. With this program, you gradually build up your walking speed, strength, and endurance over 12 weeks. And from the editors of Prevention Magazine, we bring you Lesli Bonci. Hi, Lesli. Thanks for joining us.
I'm delighted to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Now, Lesli, you mentioned in your book that walking is like the orphan child of exercise. Why would that be?
Well, because people think, oh, walking. Well, first of all, it's so easy. How could that possibly be effective? And the good news is that walking really can be incredibly effective. It's not hard on the wallet. It's not hard on the joints. And everybody can do it. It's really a very, very simple exercise.
Of course, most of us been walking since we were very small. But can walking offer the same fitness level as other forms of exercise?
It depends upon how you walk. So we're not talking about the strolls, when we're just saying hello to our neighbors and we're not moving. We're really talking about purposeful walking with arms swinging, with the right foot strikes, and also short, fast steps. And when you do that, then yes, indeed, it is as effective as many other types of activities without the subsequent injury to the joints that sometimes some of those other activities bring.
Well, tell me a little bit of that. You keep mentioning that it's less stressful to the joints. Why is that?
Well, because, for instance, when people run, it's much more jarring to the body.
Okay.
And so when you walk, your feet aren't leaving the ground, so you don't have that kind of an impact. Or even sometimes people do other things, pick up soccer, basketball, whatever, and then you have knees turning when perhaps knees shouldn't be turning certain ways, and that can be a little bit dangerous. And all those things also require a greater degree of skill. And to walk, you don't really need a lot of skill. You just need to be able to commit to the time to do it correctly to reap the benefits.
Now, is it true that walking is an Olympic sport?
Race walking, yes, and that is another whole side of walking where it really is quite quick, and there's a certain gait involved, and most people probably wouldn't do that. But the fact of the matter is that people who are race walkers can cover a lot of distance in a relatively short period of time. And so one of the things we talk about in the book is the way to help everybody increase their efficiency with their walking by starting out doing a time test for a mile. How long does it take you to do it? And over 12 weeks, everybody gets faster. And in our 22 test panelists, everybody got faster. Some people shaved minutes off their mile time by getting better at walking.
Is it better to do this with a friend or somebody or maybe even in a group?
Well, one of the things about having a buddy is that you're accountable to somebody else. There's somebody else to motivate you to do it, or maybe you don't feel like doing it. And indeed, in a group, provided that everybody's going to walk at a pace where we're walking efficiently. So not just standing there and chatting or, ooh, let's all go walk and get ice cream. A group can be very sabotaging that way. But if you have people that you walk with at a pace, then yes, that's fine.
Is it necessary to stretch before you walk? As I say, a lot of people kind of stretching before and afterwards. Should it be before? Should it be after? Should it be both?
Well, it doesn't have to be both, and quite frankly, if you're going to be walking at a pace, then you're probably not going to set out the door and immediately get to that pace. So, starting slow to warm up the muscles and then easing on into your pace that you want to walk is great. And then when you're done stretching, because walking is a tightening activity for the muscles, not a loosening activity, so you don't have to do the stretch ahead of time. You do a little bit slower walk to get yourself started, and then you stretch on the back end.
Some people like to walk during their lunch break at work, but then, they also have to have lunch. So how do you fit that in? Can you eat and then walk, or walk first and then eat? What should you do?
Well, if you're comfortable, and what I do, and I work with athletes primarily, so what I always have them do is parenthesize their exercise. So, for instance, if they're going to be working out in the middle of the day, or if you're walking in the middle of the day, how about having half of your lunch before you walk and the other half when you're done? So then you have something to look forward to when you're finished, but you're also not so starved before you begin. And that way you have time for both. And for those that are really time pressed, you know, we can split the walk up. Is do part of the walk during lunchtime, and how about the rest of the walk later in the day?
Well, but some people, you know, when they get home, they're too tired to get out or whatever. What are some of the little tricks or tips that you recommend for someone getting home after a long day's work and thinking about going out and walking?
Well, one of the things is if you put a whoopee cushion on your chair, you know, it kind of forces you to get up. No, we wouldn't do that. But you know, one of the things too is
that's
when
brilliant.
you come in the house, if you get too comfortable, then you're probably not going to get out again. And so that might be the very perfect time. We have, you know, a family at home is, hey, everybody, and we're going to go for a walk before we have dinner, or maybe I've called one of my neighbors or a friend, how about if I meet you at the park before I get home, so we get that walk in, and then when you get home, it's one less thing you have to think about. A lot of times people keep it in sight. My walking shoes are out in sight, or they bring their workout bag to work on the desk, so it is right there, and then they're more likely to actually do it than having it shoved under the table somewhere where they don't think about it.
So to maybe like change your clothes before you leave work and put on your sneakers, and that way you're ready. You're ready to go. So you get home, you drop off your stuff, and get out. Yeah.
Right, and the beauty of this is it's truly only one piece of equipment. It's your shoes. That's it. You don't really have to have other equipment for walking.
And also have a good whoopee cushion, of course. So.
Yeah, of course.
All right, choosing a good shoe, a good pair of shoes. What should you do?
Well, what you really should do is to go to a store that specializes in walking and running shoes. And many of them actually have treadmills, and if not that, then at least if they can watch you walk without shoes on to see what your feet do. Do you supinate? Do you pronate? Do your feet roll in? Do your feet roll out? And then you find a shoe that actually corrects for that. So it shouldn't be that people necessarily have to pay top dollar, but on the other hand, you don't want to just buy the cheapest shoes you can with no support, because the problem with that is then you're actually going to increase the risk of injury, and you will not be able to walk for a long period of time.
Well, that makes sense. And again, that goes, that information goes with people who have difficulty with arthritis and joint pains and plantar fasciitis, right? You want to find comfortable shoes, you want to get started slowly, and you want to watch out for your limitations. Is that correct?
Well, absolutely. It's being mindful about this. And you know, a lot of times when people are getting started, I'll just go out and walk an hour. Wrong. It's in our book, we really recommend that people start out, they haven't done it before, you're walking 10 minutes. And say, well, that's not even worth the effort. But if you walk 10 minutes, then you can walk further than that. But if you push yourself to do 30 the first day and then you can't even move the next day, that's a little bit pointless. So we'd rather have people start with a shorter period of time and definitely make sure their stride is correct and they're pumping their arms and really master the technique before they extend the duration of time.
Now, in my neighborhood, I see a lot of people walking their dog using their cell phones at the same time. And are they accomplishing anything with this?
Well, no. I mean, hopefully the dog's getting some walk. But you know, the problem is, if you're on the cell phone, you are not fully engaged in what you're doing. And, and sometimes people's heads are down, which is really very dangerous because you can bump into something and then you don't even know where the dog is at that point in time. It's really the purpose of walking is to disconnect. Phone away. Walk the dog. The dog really wants us to get out. And, I mean, I wouldn't be able to have a phone in my hand because otherwise I wouldn't be able to control her. So you use that time for the walking, and then you use other time for the talking. We don't have to walk and talk together.
Got it. And if you're walking, I always heard that if you're walking at a certain pace, you should be able to carry on a conversation, but just a little bit short of breath. Now, that's a very rough estimate. What would be a good indication of what's a good pace that you're walking in?
Right. I mean, you probably you're going to be breathing a little faster, so it shouldn't be just having a very, very comfortable conversation such as you and I are having right now. But on the other hand, you don't want to be panting because that makes people nervous. So, you know, something in between. You want to be working hard and you should be able to talk, but it should be with some difficulty. And when we talk about that, the reason that this is so important is because the way that you walk does matter. It's not hands down at your side. It's arms bent, purposeful, so you are swinging your arms, not directing planes, but you're swinging your arms, and it is heel-to-toe movement with the foot, and it's shorter, faster steps. So we don't have to have long strides, and so if you're doing that and you're really pushing yourself, you're probably not going to be having too much of a conversation at that point in time. So this is much more than a stroll.
Well, the book is called Walk Your Butt Off, and we have heard from one of its authors, Lesli Bonci. Lesli, thank you so much for being on the show, and they can find your book at any major bookstore on Amazon, and your website is?
The website is walkyourbuttoff.com.
Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you.